On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown live from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, Friday, November 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, live only on Netflix.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
Welcome, everyone, to the G Note Podcast. I am your host, as always, Jason Spicy G. Goldman, and I'm a Grammy-winning record producer, arranger, and musician. I've been a music professor at USC for over 22 years, and I am most known for writing and producing music for the iconic crooner Michael Bublé over the past 20 years. This is a podcast for musicians who want advice and strategies on navigating the music industry. If you're not a musician but a music fan, I promise there is plenty in here for you as well. On this pod, we talk all things music. On today's pod, we are talking about the balance between high art and modern ways. Let's go. In the future, the focus will be on music being made, but not experienced. It will become void of communicating a feeling. Folks, this blew my mind when I first heard this. And before we get into it, thank you again so much for tuning in and listening to this pod. I always appreciate your ears. Today, we're going to be talking about something a bit heavy, which is this kind of balance between high art and modern ways. And this quote up in the front here is from a friend of mine who I'll discuss in a minute. But it's something that I think is really urgent that people understand and listen to in order for music to continue to be what it has always been, an experience. As I've said many times before, being in the music industry is a wild ride. And it's really a series of extreme ups and downs. And this was one of those thoughts that really brought me down. And by the way, this is not just going to be a downer episode. It's not. But it does speak truth, as I always try to give you. You know, it brought me down not because it was wrong, but quite the opposite, because I see it becoming very true. So I always say this, but, you know, I'm extremely lucky to have such talented colleagues with me at USC and friends, great friends. And I was in a meeting, I think it was the end of last year, with one of my colleagues, and she said something so profound and important that I truly feel that I need to share this with you guys. And, you know, she had written this down, so of course I asked her to send me, you know, the manuscript so I could really read it, accurately. The colleague I'm speaking of has been nominated 3 times for a Grammy Award. She's had a mega hit song in 1982 titled Forget-Me-Nots, which has been recorded and re-recorded and redone by several huge artists, including Will Smith for the main title theme, Men in Black. Her nickname is Baby Fingers, as she has very small hands, and she is an incredible jazz piano player. And her name is Patrice Rushen. So we were both in a meeting, and prior to the meeting, we were tasked with the question, dreaming ahead to the year 2050, how do you envision the future of your field? And this is so important, folks, and it really speaks to the state of the current music industry. And this is going to be, like I said, a bit heavy, but I promise we'll dissect it all. And just for a little context, so Patrice was the chair of the pop music department at USC, and I'm the chair of the jazz department at USC. And so all the chairs were in this meeting. And so this is what Patrice said. There is currently a struggle to find the balance in music education between the expectation of a certain mastery of a body of knowledge and said knowledge being relevant to the creation of new music. The study of music cannot appear to be a stagnant or stale practice. Certain fundamental, foundational music information is critical. If it is not shown to be relevant and important to music creation, performance and production will be superficial, stale, and dependent on external devices and hyperbole disguised as musical truths. Damn, that is insane. So let's dig into this. In essence, she is saying that the balance of musical knowledge, as in studying those before you, learning harmony, learning how music functions, will be in question. She says the study of music is ongoing and one should always be learning. And she appears to be saying that it will be in question because students will question whether it is relevant to current music. And if they don't feel it's relevant, why should they need to know all of that material? She goes on to say that studying the foundations of music and the fundamentals are crucial. And let me pause here to say, I don't think she's, is suggesting you need to be a master music theorist or know your music history in and out. We all know plenty of musicians who lack theory or can't even read music at all, but can play the crap out of a solo or can groove like nobody. Believe it or not, the study can be just from hours and hours and hours of listening and digesting the people that came before you. Emulation or transcribing is studying, and we've talked about this in past episodes, especially on the episode on how to get better. I gave you 2 important tips, and one of them was transcribing. So really, really important. And finally, let's finish this dissection of this sentiment. She's saying that if students don't find this to be relevant anymore, this being knowledge of music and the past and theory, and important to creating new music, then things will be stagnant and people will begin to believe that they have found a top level when really they've found a mediocre or average level. But they'll believe it to be the highest because the learning and thirst for more will have stopped or changed. Folks, a lot of this can be seen through the current state of the music industry, right? I think she's saying this because people are spending an exorbitant amount of time on social media trying to create a viral moment, and the music is starting to become secondary to creating that viral moment. Or not even just secondary, just part of the viral moment, as opposed to being the thing, really. And we had talked about this also in an earlier episode. You know, it's very difficult to balance these things out. And I know, by the way, I understand that social media is definitely part of the process in terms of marketing and in terms of getting your name out, in terms of letting people know what you're up to. But at some point, it has started to take over, I should say, take a higher place above the actual task of being better at music. Let me read you a little bit more from the document because it's so amazing to me. She says, young artists will watch and imitate a video, and they will stop there. The mindset of marketing being more important than mastery will limit their imaginations and the desire to work towards the personal goal of improvement beyond what they see, which will be average. She goes on to say, the role of art will not be associated with the joy of making it. Man. And the focus will be on music being made but not experienced. It will become void of communicating a feeling. This is such an important thing, and which is why I'm obviously talking about it today. And I know, again, it's very heavy, but let's dissect this portion that she's saying. She's saying people will not seek out mastery of their art anymore, but rather find a TikTok or YouTube video, learn what they can from there, and that's as far as their curiosity will go. This is what I was just talking about, this balance between the art and the marketing side of this industry. She then goes on to say that the role of art, which should be really a joyful experience. God knows most of us are not doing this for the money, right? Because the vast majority of us, over 99% of us, will not be making tons and tons of money on this. But if that's the case, the joyful experience will be lost, as that will no longer be the point. Sure, people will make music, but mostly to get clicks and attention. But the experience of listening to a song or album will be gone. The idea of communicating a feeling through music, which is what we do, will be a thing of the past, as artists will not care as much about that, as they will be more concerned with getting heard or just really seen. And this is what I was saying about music not being the thing anymore, but just a part of the thing. And I actually think I had gotten that idea initially from another conversation I had with Patrice a while back. But this is a really, really important topic to understand, that music, you go into music, and I've said this before, you should only go into music unless, if you have to, as far as doing it as a profession. Of course, if you just, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, and you want to do music on the side for fun, of course, it should always be fun. But if you're going to go into it as a profession, right, you need to, you understand, like, music is everything to you. It's not about the clicks. It's not about the marketing. And while we definitely want to make sure that people know what we're doing and what we're trying to do, you didn't get into the industry to be rich and famous, because that, again, the odds of that happening are very, very slim. So it's really important that people and musicians and artists understand that, for as much as we have to deal with the marketing aspect of what is happening, going to school and learning, or learning through albums and past recordings, is crucial to you becoming a high-level artist. Now, I'm sure some of you are shaking your head and be like, well, Axl Rose probably didn't go to school or learn X, Y, and Z. No, I don't think that he did necessarily, but the point that I'm making is that I bet you he listened to countless albums. He did the research, not the book smart theoretical research, but the I know every rock band on the face of the planet research. I don't need to be able to read music. I don't need to, right? And not that, and I'm sure it's not that he wouldn't want to read music, as much as he's doing the homework in a different way. And it's really important that we all understand that when it comes to music and musicians and the art itself. Let's really get something straight. Music should not be thought of as a piece of content. Despite what people say on Instagram all the time, it's not a piece of content. Especially if you are a musician. The music is the thing. That's what you're trying to convey. That is your art that you are creating. And yes, we want to market it. And yes, we have to, unfortunately, do videos and spend time nowadays focusing on other things to get our music out there. But the idea of the marketing being as important or more important to me is a little bit silly. The bottom line, and I think the point she's trying to make through all of this, is the balance of honing your craft versus this idea of content becomes difficult to juggle. And what really, in essence, that this boils down to is that we should be, as artists and musicians, striving for the highest that we can get to. Quincy Jones, I'm sure, didn't stop and be like, well, I got there. The learning process is always happening. And especially if you can always tell some of the best musicians, right? Because you can always listen to them and see progress and see learning happening, because that is what they are accustomed to doing. They want to get better. They want to get to the top level. And will we ever see that top level? Probably not. I mean, maybe not. But the idea of us constantly searching for more as artists is so embedded in any art. You're always trying to be better than your last thing. You're trying to learn and just grow as a person and musician. So it's kind of twofold. So, folks, this was a really big, to me, a big warning to students out there and to musicians to not forget that the art form is not just content. It's not just learning how to do something from YouTube. Sure, that could be a really good starting place. Like, hey, I learned how to play some chords on the guitar. Great. Let's take that as a departure point and go seek out guidance and go seek out great guitar players and go seek out great teachers to get better and really focus on trying to be a high-level musician as opposed to just learning really quickly a few chords and then just throwing up a YouTube video or an Instagram post and hopefully it'll go viral and you'll be this big famous person and all of a sudden you've got, you're a big musician now. Not to speak for Patrice, but I think she's saying if that's going to be the definition of a top-level musician now, then we might be in trouble. Folks, that's all the time we have for today's episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this pod so you can stay up to date with new shows, giveaways, and more importantly, the concerts. We got a big holiday show coming up in December. You should go check out my website, jasongoldmanmusic.com, to get your tickets. You can also follow me on Instagram at SpicyGMusic. And on the website, you can also check out all the different projects I'm working on and see when I'll be performing next. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Much love. Peace.